Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Out Here in the Redwoods. I'm your host, Denise Riles, and this is the show where we search the canopy to find things that are really meaningful to you at home here in Humboldt. And ladies and gentlemen, it is no secret that now is election time, election season. Everything is out there on the table. And one thing that I really appreciate is if you're going to make change, let's start from home. And our important races are our city council. And today, ladies and gentlemen, all around the world, please welcome Second Ward City Council candidate, Mrs. Kati Moulton. Hello, Katie.
Hello, Denise. So happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you. We go way back. And I can say without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, this is one hard working woman. You have been president of the Kinetic Grand Championship, instrumental in the North Star Quest Girls Camp. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah. I started at North Star Quest Camp as the art, doing arts and crafts, and I've been the camp director now for several years.
Oh, fantastic. And instrumental in the Ink People Center for the Arts.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and for me, most importantly, Rutabaga Queen. So, Katie, I actually watched your candidacy begin on Facebook with a call for somebody to turn in the paperwork for the second ward. I mean, a lot of people were listed and contacted. Do you know anyone? And I was biting at the bit, and all of a sudden, it's you. I was so excited. How did you come to the decision to walk in and hand them your paperwork for candidacy for the second ward?
Well, as soon as it was clear that Heidi Mesner wasn't going to be able to run again because of the way that the redistricting happened, she's a wonderful city council person. I voted for her myself. And when the districts were redrawn to even out the population for the way that the elections are going to be held now, she couldn't run anymore. So I started paying close attention to who was going to run. I was looking for that progressive candidate I thought I could really get behind. And the deadline for filing just got closer and closer, and there wasn't somebody I felt like would really represent me or would really work to represent the people who lived in the second ward. And then I got a few phone calls and a few texts, and people are looking for somebody. Oh, you live in the second ward, don't you? I'm like, yeah. It's like, have you ever considered running? Leslie Castellano texted me. She says, have you ever considered running for public office? And I said, no. But I had a long talk with her about the job and what it really entails. And it's very similar to the work that I've been doing with nonprofits for years around here. It's about talking to stakeholders and talking to the community that you serve, finding out what their needs are, and then working to make connections so that those needs are met. So I decided that I had a chance of being able to do the job. I thought I'd be pretty good at it. So went ahead and turned in the paperwork at the very last possible second and got myself on the ballot there.
Wow. And what was the conversation like with your husband and your sweet little boy? It's like, okay, honey, we're in. What was the reaction?
I mentioned that we did it at the last second, and that's because usually when the incumbent is not running again, there's this extended deadline. And so the local had reported that that was going to be the case, and I just sort of took that at face value. I checked the website, and we all thought that there was going to be another week after. Well, I was right at that moment. I was in the middle of, or at the very, very end of closing out and liquidating Scrap Humboldt. So total heartbreak. I was hired in late February to be the new director of Scrap Humboldt. The combination of creative reuse, where art and ecology meet with community service, was exactly where I wanted to be. And I was very excited to have that job. And then of course the pandemic happened and lockdown happened, and just a number of things stacked up against the business. And we ended up, big heartbreak, having to shut it down. And I was right there at that deadline, literally sweeping the floor, totally wiped out. I was very glad that I was going to have another 5 days to think about it, maybe just take a bath, you know, give it a little bit of thought whether I wanted to really commit myself to this. And that's when I got the phone call that, oh no, it turns out the deadline is today at 5 o'clock. So Leslie Castellano ran all the way around the second ward and got extra signatures, got all the signatures together. I left what I was doing. I shut the door. I drove back to Eureka. I'm like dictating my candidate statement into my phone so that we could get the paperwork, the money, me, my signature, and my candidate statement all to City Hall by 5 o'clock. And I pull up, it's like 4:55, and I'm filling out the paperwork outside, and the city clerk opens the door. She's like, "Why aren't you in the building?" Like, okay. So like, she's like, "The deadline is 5. Okay, I'm running. So very helpful.
10, 9, 8.
Exactly. So I went in, and so it's like during that tiny little window of time right after Leslie said it's now or never, and I actually got in my van when I called my husband real quick. It's like, okay, this decision we were going to have to make over the course of this week, now we have to make it over the course of the next 5 minutes. So, we talked about time commitments, we talked about public service, we talked about like the sort of work that I want to do, and, we came to a decision together. I'm afraid my son is 3, so while his interests are definitely part of the conversation, I didn't actually talk to him about it.
So what is it that you want to do as city councilwoman?
Well, like I said, I've worked for years in community-driven projects. I understand how to talk to people and find out what's important to them and help work towards their goals. And that's what I want to do for the people of the Second Ward. The Second Ward encompasses some of Eureka's poorest neighborhoods. It encompasses some really difficult situations. It also contains some really amazing groups of people and families and support networks and a community that are there, to help and to support each other. So I want to represent the people of the Second Ward. I want to connect them with the power of local government and really just be their voice on city council.
That's wonderful, Katie. One thing, I'm in the 4th ward, and one thing that works for us, I have to give a shout out to Austin Allison and Kim Burgell. They have been instrumental in doing what you said, bringing the people together. They've come to neighborhood watch meetings and things like that. Is that something that you want to keep going in as second ward? I'm sorry.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the really cool things about running is that all of these different groups are reaching out to me. So, I fully intend to scour the neighborhood, and, I'm already out there talking to folks, knocking on doors on the weekends. But what happened is when I put myself forth as a candidate, people started calling, people started emailing me, people started asking me questions, people started telling me what their concerns are. I've been invited to do facility tours everywhere from the Needle Exchange at Hatcher to Papa and Barkley's state-of-the-art production facility. Talking to people left, right. And in fact, this Wednesday, or later this week, there's a candidate forum for the Second Ward that's being put on by SENA, the South Eureka Neighborhood Alliance. So I'm really pleased that folks are reaching out to me, and I'm looking forward to engaging those networks and kind of like reaching out to more people. I think the most effective thing that city government can do, especially on a shoestring budget, especially in such difficult times, is to really work to build coalitions, to build community, and build to communicate between existing agencies, between existing services. In the city, I'm really pleased with the work that they're doing. The oh my God, my acronyms mixed up. The CETA, the CERTA, the emergency response teams in the
Right.
police
See that?
department is
Yes.
sending out.
Search.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Sir, is it a mattress? Is it a breath mint? Um, but they're using what they have, which is not a lot of money and a little bit of staff, and they're working to coordinate the efforts of existing agencies, working with Betty Chin, working with Mission, working with different projects around town that are on the ground or in the neighborhoods that are directly involved in the community. I think that's the best thing that the city government can be doing is coordinating efforts, making things better, more efficient, easing the way for things to happen, because the energy is out there. The compassion is out there. We live in a really amazing community full of great ideas, full of big hearts and big minds. And I think that tapping into that instead of like handing down solutions from on high, that we need to
Right.
be tapping into the energy, and we need to be listening to the people that are there. That's that community driven model. It's about what the people in the ward want and need.
And what have the people in the second ward been asking for? What has been the overall thing that, okay, everybody kind of wants this. Let's see if we can tackle this first.
The big problems for everybody kind of tend to be the big problems for everybody. Eureka is in an economic depression. The second ward is probably the poorest section of Eureka. And so the problems that people want to talk about are the problems that stem from the disease of poverty. And that is homelessness and drug addiction and abuse. And it's complicated and it's big and wide and deep. And, so everybody has their different part of that problem that they see closest to them, and that's what they want to talk about, whether it's people car camping near them, or the dangers of having sort of no-go zones because other things are happening there. I'm thinking specifically of some little spots in the neighborhood where it's people have packed in more housing than is legal, and so stuff happens there because people don't call for help because just the fact that they're living there is illegal. So one of the things that I'm hoping to address and that I know would make a big difference around here is affordable housing, infill development, approving those second units, finding ways for very small, very affordable houses to be legal so that they can come out into the sunshine, so that people don't have to feel like they're a second-class citizen, or that they're not able to ask for help from, say, the police when they need it, because their house is so small, because they're living in a trailer behind their mom. There's got to be ways to make all of this legal and above board and bring people out into the sunshine. And I think that's probably a theme that I'm going to touch on a lot, is that when we make things more difficult, that are things that people are going to do, then we create places where people exist and they can't ask for help. One of the reasons I'm so pleased that Eureka is a sanctuary city. So regardless of someone's immigration status, if they need help, they can call an ambulance, they can call the cops, they can call on their neighbors, and not worry that the simple fact that they are in the wrong place, according to federal law, doesn't mean that their life isn't worth saving.
Yeah, that's a very important point. People's safety, no matter why or how they got here. Wow.
Yeah.
You never really think about that until you run into it.
Yeah, I think that my experience running North Star Quest Camp for Girls, which is a summer camp for middle school girls where we never turn anyone away because they can't pay. So we deliberately reach out to every girl in middle school, not just the ones who are labeled at risk or whose family requires financial support. We're looking for everybody. In our opinion, in my opinion, I shouldn't speak for the group. In my opinion, if you are a middle school girl, you are at risk and you can benefit from an empowering program. So because of this work that I've done, I've heard firsthand some of the really challenging things that the kids in this neighborhood are doing. I was a community health outreach worker for years with the Raven Project, and we did teen groups and queer youth groups, all with the kids in Eureka, a lot of them coming from around here. I, as the director of the Mars Project at the Ink People, I helped to bring, okay, so the Mars Project is really cool. It is a free digital media studio where anybody in the age range can come in and learn how to do audio, video, and digital graphic production. So I got to meet all of these wonderful kids who were musicians that couldn't afford a microphone, who were artists that couldn't afford a computer, who were filmmakers that were shooting on their, you know, their uncle's second or third hand iPhone.
Wow.
And those stories, those voices, those are the ones around here that I have connections with. And, you know, you hear about these different ways that people just sort of fall through the cracks, and they don't feel like all of the benefits of being a citizen belong to them. They don't feel like the wealth of our city belongs to them. And of course, and we need to work to make sure that everybody is accounted for. You know, that nobody just lives somewhere where they don't get to be heard or get to be human.
Wow, that's important.
That's sort of going on.
Going through and talking to everyone in the second ward, has there been anything that has shocked you or surprised you that you didn't expect?
Only aesthetic things. There's like, because we're in South Eureka, so we're right on the edge of the sort of planned part of the community and moving into the sort of like we're right there by the county. And so sometimes you'll just be walking along and there'll be a set of row houses, you know, and it's just like little small affordable housing. And then right next to that, there is this enormous colonial throwback, like Spanish colonial style McMansion behind a wrought iron fence with a perfectly manicured yard. And then right next to that, there's this like modest little house that's really nicely painted. And right next to that, there's a lot with like 3 tractor trailers shoved onto it. And she's like, such a mix, such a mishmash. I come from suburban Houston, so I am used to like miles and miles and miles and miles of houses there's 4 houses and they just alternate. Now Eureka can look like that somewhat, although we get our mix, the 4 houses being like wedding cake Victorians, giant craftsmen's, what I live in, a Pearson, then a farmhouse, and they just intersperse. But just to be in somewhere where there's so much variety of people and variety of socioeconomic status and variety of aesthetic, I'm an artist. That's what's interesting to me. The people don't shock me. I understand. I mean, not that I understand everything everybody's going through, but I've heard a lot and I've talked to a lot of people. So I don't think there's anything on the super awesome end or on the super crummy end that is just going to come out of left field for me. I'm fortunately working with some of the youth in this area and the families in this area. I've definitely heard some stories that would curl your hair. But fortunately, in the work that I'm doing, say I'm at summer camp and a middle school girl tells us that she's in trouble. That sucks. That breaks my heart. But it also means that she's in a place with some adults that she trusts enough to ask for help, and that she's in the right place for us to help her ask for help.
Right.
So even if all you do is hear someone's tragic story, you're helping them. If you're also able to make a report or make a connection that can help get them out of a dangerous situation, then that's just all the better. So unfortunately, I've heard a lot of, you know, really, really shocking stories, but at the same time, there's a lot of hope there, and there's a lot of possibilities there for people healing and people growing and people helping each other.
Nice. Katie, you got it going on. I have to say. I really appreciate all of what you do. I really do. And what puts you ahead of your competition? What do you think you have ahead of your competition?
Well, I think the sort of things that I've been talking about already, my experience in service that show like compassion and service to the community, um, I think that's probably unique on my side. I definitely know that nobody else runs a summer camp and also youth programs and also, you know, does kinetic stuff and also this, also that. But I think that, well, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about my experience that's on a more like larger scale side, which would be on the admin side of the kinetic universe. So
You got my
those of
next
you
question.
involved in kinetics might know me. Okay. I think, well, because I think that's what puts me ahead is that not only do I have these personal experiences in public service, but I do also have experience with these, this very big thing that encompasses not just Eureka, but, you know, 5 different municipalities up and down the country and or up and down the county, and that brings in people from around the state and around the world, and that's probably going to be the thing that I have, not just ideals and not just principles, but experience, showing the best parts of Eureka to the world and helping folks enjoy what we have, or even maybe come here and enjoy what we have and leave some money before they go. You want to ask about kinetics or should I just talk about it?
I would love you to talk about kinetics.
So Kinetic Universe is the nonprofit which runs the Kinetic Grand Championship and the Kinetic Museum Eureka and the Kids Kinetic Classic, and also wonderful events like the Rutabaga Ball and Kinetic Couture, which is happening now. And it is a 50-year Humboldt tradition rooted in glory that is this wonderful combination of art and culture with athleticism, with engineering, with ecotourism. We get to have it on this beautiful, the towns and the trails and the beaches and the rivers, all up and down the coast. So as the Queen Professor President, that is my title, Queen Professor President the Fourth, because I'm the 4th Queen President. I have been helping to run the nonprofit and helping to run the Kinetic Grand Championship for years. And Kinetics brings in tens in a normal year. Kinetics brings in tens of thousands of people and millions of dollars into the area. And I just got a visitor because I forgot to lock the door of the office. So just a second.
Okay.
Say hi, and then you gotta go. Ready? Say hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is true reality TV. Not only do women lead us, they lead their homes too. This is how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that you keep calling Miss Moulton with any of your questions. And as you're submitting the vote, keep her in mind. Oh, and you're back.
I'm back. Clearly, I'm a mom.
Yes.
I bought a house here near Highland Park about 3 or 4 years ago, but we've lived in the ward for over a decade. But yeah, we thought this might be a good place to raise our son, and I'm interested in helping make it an even better place to raise our son. That was Hamilton. We call him Ham.
Hamilton. Little Hamilton, I think you're going to be a star.
He's certainly my son.
That is great. Man, over the years, Katie, what was the first thing you really got involved with when you got to Humboldt County?
Oh, it's absolutely kinetics. I came here, okay, so I was in Houston and I had put together a one-woman play. I did this play called Love, Anarchy, and Other Affairs by Jessica Litwack. It was about Emma Goldman. And it was about Emma Goldman, and it was about love and anarchy and activism, and it's a turn of the century anarchist feminist. And she was in the play, she's in hiding because she has been accused of conspiracy to assassinate President McKinley.
Ooh.
So I did this play, and I decided that I wanted to go. I was traveling that summer. I'm in my early 20s, and so I put together a traveling play, and I toured the West Coast. We went from San Diego to Bellingham, Washington. We did 12 shows in 2 weeks, and I did 2 shows here in Humboldt. I met one person. I met a bunch of people, but the person who booked my show, this awesome dude named Willoughby, yeah, exactly. So, I did my show in a barn in Arcata, and it was the best show on the whole tour. The audience was fantastic. It was just wonderful and passionate. And then Willoughby took myself and my violin player up to Horse Mountain, and we watched a meteor shower, and then we camped out, and then we came down the next day, and I went to this unbelievably gorgeous beach that had no people on it, which, coming from the Gulf Coast, that a beach with no people on it is crazy. And I said to Willoughby, I was like, I'm moving here. And he's like, oh yeah, everybody says that, because he was booking shows for the Placebo at the time. And I was like, no, give me a few months. And so it took me 6 months. I went home, I sold half my stuff, gave the other half away, got my Ford truck and my cat and my dining room table, and I moved to Humboldt. So when I got here, I knew one person, and that was Willoughby. Well, if you're gonna know one person, he's the guy to know. And he says, I go painting every weekend with this goofy dude, and we do public art, and it's super fun. And I know you like to paint, so come on. And I went to school for theater, did sign shop stuff, I did scene shop stuff. And so I just like painting. It's nice. So I went and painted with Willoughby, and the person turned out to be Dwayne Flatmo in the Rural Borough Mural Bureau. And so I'm painting murals with them. And, we all got to be friends. And then this was in January. It was getting to be kinetic season. And so right around March, they're like, do you want to come work on our kinetic sculpture team? Because Willoughby was on Dwayne's team. And of course I did. And then I was introduced to the Kinetic Sculpture Lab, which is just this amazing group of people. I met Ken Beidelman. I met June Moxon. There were some other folks, and I met Charlie Jordan. And it was this, if you don't know, the Kinetic Lab is a group of artists that pay to have the lab. They organize it themselves. It's not part of the race. It's like a little artist collective specifically for building kinetic sculptures. So you go in there, and there's 5 or 6 bays, and there's all these kinetic teams building these huge all-marine vehicle sculptures. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And they just let me start paper macheing on this giant lobster tail. Oh, wow. And then I ended up on Dwayne's pit crew for 7 years. And then one day at the award ceremony, he says, it was for the Armored Carp. He got up at the award ceremony. He said, I want to thank my pit captain, Katie Texas. She's awesome, and you're going to her next year when she runs for Rutabaga Queen, which was news to me. So next year, I kind of had to do it. Dwayne told everybody I was going to do it. And then I was queen, and then somebody somewhere said that being a Rutabaga Queen is what you do when you can't race. So the next year I ran an ace team, and we got our ace. And we were this close to being the first all-female grand champion team, but we were just a little bit slow. And then that year, this may be a rumor, but it's my understanding, that year, Fifi, the bad dog, didn't have any art at all, so they bribed the art judges with a full keg of beer, and their brewmaster earned them all of their art points. Okay, fair's fair, but had we gotten 3rd place in art instead of 4th behind Fifi, we would have been the first all-female grand champions.
Wow! Yeah.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, right?
So
this is a more awesome kinetic.
All of this.
For 3 years. Yeah, and then there was a time when the kinetic universe needed, I was working on the board as the racers liaison, basically just being a link between the board of directors and the folks in the lab and the old school racers, and just trying to, just talk to people and collect ideas and make sure that these awesome new people on the board who were doing really great work and working really hard and had a lot of great ideas, I wanted to make sure that they didn't run away from the history. not that they would run away from the
Right.
glory, but sometimes you have a great idea and somebody did that in 1997 and they know why you should never do it again. And so you just got to go ask them. So that was what I was doing. And eventually I was elected president of the board. And for about 10 years now, I've been serving on the board to run the event, doing marketing, communications. I get to talk to people. I was answering the phone and email for a while, so I get to talk to people from all over the world who want to come here just for kinetics, to have great things to say about kinetics. It's a big asset. It's a big economic boost. It's a big reputation thing. It's our Kinetic Grand Championship, when the kinetic sculpture race that was born in Ferndale from glorious founder Hobart Brown has spread all over the world. It has inspired millions of people, and I love being a part of that, and I love that it was born here, and I love what it does for our community, heart, mind, soul, and pocketbook.
Well, we appreciate what you have done for our community, Ms. Kati Moulton. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're putting together your ballots, keep her in mind. Ms. Kati Moulton for 2nd Ward City Council. And that is up for us today, ladies and gentlemen, out here in the Redwoods. I'm Denise Riles. Thank you, and thank you, Kati Moulton. Congratulations. I can't wait to see how election night goes.
But I was talking about opportunities. When I came here, I was coming from this big city where the sort of work that I did, which was sign painting and which was scene work, like building theater sets and doing stage managing and other tech theater side stuff, where I come from is a very gendered profession. And I had a really hard time finding a job. I had a hard time getting work as a stage manager, because as a young woman, people assumed that these actors wouldn't take me seriously. People, when you walk into a slop shop and you go to use the table saw and you have long purple hair, people sort of like freak out. And I came up here and I found opportunities to do that kind of work. I found work in a sign shop. I found work in a theater. I found opportunities to go do independent commercial art, and people would pay attention to me and like allow me to, they'd take a chance on me. And, you know, I gained some clients then that I was doing art for years. And at the same time, I was working at the Raven Project, working with homeless, disenfranchised, or disadvantaged youth. And I was meeting these kids in the youth groups. We would do girls' space, or we would do queer coffee house, or we would do drum circle, or I'd talk to the kids around here. And they saw Eureka as a dead end, as like, they're like, I can't wait till I can get out of here. And here, I just moved into the area because there was so much opportunity for me here. So I think that having that outside perspective is really important. It's at least valuable, not necessarily more valuable than anything else, but it's certainly, I see what is possible here. I see what's unique about here. You know, some of these folks are coming from generations of declining economic possibilities. Their granddads and their dads were the ones who lost their timber job. Exactly. They're the ones who job, and that carries through generationally, and so they can't help but see this as an area that is on its way down, because for them, that's all they've seen their whole life, is what they had is going down. But we can move away from an extractive economy into something that uses what Eureka has. We have so much unique possibilities here, so many amazing resources, so many amazing people. We have this geography that you couldn't ask for anything better. It's like the Bay Area, but little, and like the weather's fantastic. People want to move here. People are moving here. What we need to do is the energy and the wealth of those people that are moving here to break these cycles of generational poverty, to lift up all of Eureka, to lift up all of Humboldt County, to lift up everybody. Let's take what we have, and the fact that people want to be here, and the fact that people want to see us, and to eat the food from here, and to drink the beer from here, and just cannabis medication from here. Like the fact that we have all of this wonderful stuff going on that's unique to here. We need to use that. We need to harness it and make all of that benefit everyone.